A young girl finds an underground world in her backyard, where she is destined to save the legendary creatures and inherit a mystical sword to defeat the Red Queen's army of monsters. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Alice in Wonderland, from 2010. A little girl called Alice Kingsley has a nightmare in which she falls down a dark abyss, where there are weird creatures like a bird, a rabbit in a jacket, smiling cats and a blue caterpillar. Her father says she shouldn't be afraid, because whenever she's in danger she can wake up. After 13 years, Alice becomes a rebellious young woman, because she doesn't wear a corset or long stockings like the rest of society. She tells her mother, Helen, that she didn't sleep very well at night because she had a nightmare, the same one she's had every day since she was a child. At a party, the young woman dances with Mr. Hamish Ascot and imagines what it would be like to be able to fly, which distracts her and causes her to trip over a woman dancing next to her. At that moment, Alice's date is irritated by her inattention. At the end of the dance, the boy asks her to meet him in 10 minutes at the bandstand. Then two sisters reveal that Hamish is going to propose to her, and that the party is a commitment ceremony. Everyone knows this except Alice. Lady Ascot, the groom's mother, invites the girl to take a walk in the garden. During the walk, the young girl notices a rabbit running among the bushes, but the woman doesn't see it. The animal continues to run and waits for the girl, who chases after it. She loses sight of him, but while she is talking to her aunt, the rodent appears once again among the plants. Alice comes across her brother-in-law Lowell kissing another woman, but decides to continue her adventure. The girl is asked by Hamish to walk up the aisle. Before the wedding proposal, Alice notices that there is a caterpillar on his shoulder, so she removes the insect herself, leaving the Lord disgusted. Young Kingsley refuses the request in front of everyone, and notices that the rabbit is holding a clock in a corridor in the garden. At that moment, she runs into the woods and chases the animal. The rodent leads her to the trunk of a tree, where there is a hole. Alice tries to investigate, but slips and falls into the abyss. During her fall, the girl comes across various objects such as pianos and lampshades. At the end of the tunnel, there is a bed that cushions the fall. Then young Kingsley falls into a strange room, where she sits on the ceiling, but gravity returns to normal and she falls to the ground. The girl tries to leave the place, but all the doors are locked. On the other hand, there is a key on the table, which the girl tries in all the locks, but none of them open. Behind a curtain on the wall, there is a small door, which can be opened with a key, but the girl can't get through because the passage is tiny. Afterwards, Alice notices that a bottle appears on the table, with a note saying "Drink me." She believes it's all just a dream, so she drinks the liquid. Suddenly, the girl begins to shrink in size and her dress becomes giant, as does the room she is in. Another dress appears on her body and she tries to open the door once more, but she has left the key on the table. The young woman tries to pick up the object, but now the table is too big for her to reach. Soon after, Alice finds a box with some kind of candy on it, on which is written "Eat me." After eating the food, her size increases and she reaches the ceiling. The girl drinks the liquid from the bottle again and picks up the key to the mini door, so that it's the perfect size for crossing the passageway. Outside the room, Alice is surprised by a different world, where there are strange insects and giant plants, as well as some kind of flying horse. She comes across the White Rabbit, who is accompanied by two brothers, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, a mouse called Malinkin, who tells them that the girl is the wrong Alice. The group believes that they must take the girl to Absalom in order to find out if she really is the real one. Absalom is a wise man, a strange caterpillar who smokes and asks who the young woman is. He makes her disbelieve who she is, and then asks her to unroll the oracle, which is the calendar of the underworld. The parchment shows each day from the beginning, and now they are in the reign of the Red Queen. What's more, there's an event called Glorian Day, the day on which Alice eliminates the Jabberwocky with the Vorpal sword. However, the girl says that she wouldn't hurt anyone, so everyone realizes that she isn't the real Alice. Young Kingsley realizes that she can wake up from that nightmare, so that everyone will disappear. She tries to pinch herself and the little mouse sticks his sword in her foot, but she only feels pain. Suddenly, a gigantic monster known as Bandersnatch appears, destroying everything in its path, accompanied by red soldiers who capture all the animals they can find, including the White Rabbit. During her escape, Alice gets it into her head that this is just a dream, so she stops in front of the creature, which is about to attack her, but the little mouse jumps on top of the enemy and gouges out one of its eyes with her sword. Even so, the monster manages to strike the girl in the arm, but she manages to escape along with the two brothers. On the other hand, a man with an eye patch, known as the Knave of Hearts, steals the oracle. The girl and the pair of brothers find a fork in the road, and before they can decide which way to go, a giant bird appears, captures the two big boys and leaves Alice behind. The two are taken through a valley full of caves to the Red Castle. Inside the palace, the Red Queen, a woman with a giant head, is furious because someone has stolen her pies. Everyone in the hall denies the theft, but she notices that one of the frogs has a dirty mouth. She then orders his guards to cut off his head and capture his young. The Knave of Hearts returns to the castle and gives the oracle to the Majesty, who discovers that Alice will destroy her strongest monster on Glorian Day. The knight orders the dog Bayard to sniff out the location of the fugitive, and if he does, the queen will free him and his family. Alice is walking through a dark forest and is surprised by the Cheshire Cat. The animal notices a bruise on the girl's arm and asks to examine it. The girl believes she doesn't need any help as she will soon wake up from her dream, so the cat simply ties a bow over the wound. The feline then tells her that he will take her to the Hare and the Hatter so that she can continue on her way. Later, Alice arrives at a place where there is an old mill and a dining table full of cutlery, where she comes across the little mouse, the March Hare and the Mad Hatter. The man says he will do his crazy dance when the White Queen puts her crown back on. They are interrupted when they hear the sound of horse hooves. Just then, the Hatter hands the girl a potion that makes her small, so he hides it inside a teapot. The rabbit gets very nervous and ends up throwing a cup at the Knave of Hearts, who dodges it and the object hits a red guard. The Hatter then tries to distract the enemy by singing, but the knight attacks him. What's more, Bayard sniffs out the teapot, which is on the Hatter's lap. However, the Hatter signals to the dog, which decides not to hand them over and runs away. After the enemies have gone, the crazy man makes a makeshift dress for the girl and puts it on her hat, so they continue their journey to the White Castle. During the journey, the man tells Alice that the whole history of the underground world is about her, but the girl says she won't take the life of any monster. He also recounts working for the White Queen, and one feast day they were attacked by a beast that spat out flaming rays. After the confusion, the Hatter woke up and found no one else in the place, just a hat that he still uses today. Suddenly, they hear barking and realize they've been followed by the Red Knights. The pair hide in the forest until the Hatter comes across a lake. He asks the girl to go south and throws the hat across the river, but the man stays behind and is captured by his enemies. At night, the girl decides to hide under the hat. After dawn, she is found by the dog Bayard, who has had to betray the Hatter's trust because his family are prisoners of the Red Queen. The girl decides that she will make her own destiny, so she gets on the dog's back and orders him to take her to the Red Castle. Outside the palace, Alice comes across a river of oil, which she crosses by jumping over stones in the shape of faces. After reaching the other side, the young woman asks Bayard to throw the hat, which falls into the castle grounds. After crossing the wall, the girl watches the queen play golf with a small hedgehog, which becomes the ball of the game. The animal heads towards Alice, and the queen orders the white rabbit to go in search of it. Arriving in the garden, the rodent comes across young Kingsley. She is given some cake, which makes her grow so big that she becomes a giant. This way, her enemies are aware of her presence, but she doesn't reveal her true identity. The girl says she went there to be accepted, because in her community they think she's too big, so the queen gives her suitable clothes. After Alice sits next to the Majesty on the throne, the woman invites the Tweedles brothers into the hall and one of them recognizes the young woman, but before he can tell the truth, his twin stops him. The Knave of Hearts appears and the queen asks for the new prisoner to be brought in. Then the Hatter enters through the door of the hall. The woman asks where Alice is, and he lies and says he doesn't know. The man tries to distract the royalty by saying that he can build a perfect hat for her, since her head is so splendid. In this way, the knight frees him from the chains with his sword. At the same time, Bayard goes to the White Queen and tells her that Alice has returned to the underground world. The woman says that the girl is on the right track, because the Vorpal sword is in Salazem, in the Red Palace. Meanwhile, Alice manages to escape to the garden and finds the Mad Hatter's hat. The White Rabbit hides to listen to the Majesty, who confesses to the Knave of Hearts that she took the king's life, and shows that she is having an affair with him. While making hats, the Hatter gets confused and stressed, so he tries to break everything around him. Alice holds his face and tells him that the best people are crazy, which reassures him. The girl must find the Vorpal sword and go to the White Queen. Then she walks through the Red Castle and meets the Tweedle brothers. They take her to the rabbit, but the mouse doesn't want to let her pass, because she's the one who's going to save the Hatter. Nevertheless, the White Rabbit takes Alice to a hut in the backyard, where the sword is. The young woman smells something familiar and realizes that Bandersnatch, the monster who hurt her, is sleeping in the house. Seeing the wound on Alice's arm, the rodent faints. The girl follows her mission and takes the creature's eye that was with Malinkin. On the way to the yard, she is interrupted by the knight, who puts her against the wall and one of the employees watches, but Alice manages to escape. She then enters the monster's house and gives him his eye in order to calm him down. In this way, the young woman manages to look for the sword, but the weapon is locked inside a box. What's more, the girl's wound gets worse and worse, causing her to faint, as does the animal, which is also weak. While showing the hats to the queen, the Hatter notices that one of the advisors is wearing a false nose and he has a laughing fit. At that moment, Majesty receives the news that the Knave of Hearts has gotten too close to the giant girl, which infuriates her. In the yard, Alice finds a key in the monster's collar, so she takes it calmly, and the creature licks her wound, causing it to heal. After that, the girl opens the sword case and Bandersnatch lets her go without attacking her. After being reprimanded by the queen, Knave of Hearts goes after Alice, who is about to use her sword to cut the Hatter's chains, but is interrupted. The belligerent man tries to distract his enemies by throwing things at them, while the little mouse tries to cut their chains. The knight strikes with his weapon, but the Hatter defends himself with a mannequin and fires objects at the enemy. When she realizes that the Hatter is going to lose the fight, the little mouse shouts for Alice to run away, saying her name, so that the enemy discovers the young girl's true identity. The girl flees into the yard, but is surrounded by red guards. Before she can be captured, Bandersnatch appears and knocks down her opponents. The monster stops in front of the girl so that she can climb on his back and they flee to the White Castle. Along the way they meet Bayard, who accompanies them. Knave of Hearts informs the queen that Alice was in the castle and escaped, so he receives several slaps, but the woman condemns Malinkin and the Hatter. The young Kingsley arrives at the White Castle and hands the sword to the Majesty. The two go to the kitchen, where the March Hare is throwing things all over the place. After adding various ingredients to a pot, the woman spits out the potion and hands some to the girl, who swallows it and returns to her normal size. The White Queen says that the people will turn against the evil Majesty as soon as Jabberwocky is defeated. After that, the girl goes to Absalom, who tells her that she is the real Alice, and that she should have the Vorpal sword in her hands when the day comes. Meanwhile, before the Hatter is eliminated, the Cheshire Cat goes to his cell. Several people gather around a square where the man and the mouse will be condemned. The Hatter asks to keep the hat, so the executioner strikes the final blow, but the man disappears and the hat begins to float on its own, revealing that it is the Cheshire Cat. Soon after, the Hatter appears behind the queen and shows her that the people around her are wearing masks and false ears to look like her. Faced with this situation, the woman goes mad and has everyone's head chopped off. The Hatter then goes down to the bottom of the courtyard and encourages the population to make a revolution against the Red Queen. The woman orders the release of the giant bird, which flies over and captures the people. Hatter meets Malinkin, and the Red Queen asks him to release the Jabberwocky for the battle against her sister, the White Majesty. Later, the Hatter and his companions arrive at the White Palace. The next day, Queen Marana's friends try to choose someone to face the Jabberwocky, but she reveals that only Alice can do it, and only if she wants to, as she will have to do it alone. Young Kingsley is startled and runs into the garden, where she meets Absalom, who is about to enter a cocoon. Talking to the wise man, Alice realizes that she was once in the underworld when she was a child. The same things happened and she met everyone, even the Red Queen. In this way, she discovers that everything in her mind was not a dream, but a memory. Finally, the caterpillar reassures her that when she wields the Vorpal sword, the weapon will know what to do. The enemies march towards the White Castle and Queen Marana prepares her soldiers. Alice goes into battle mounted on Bandersnatch and wearing armor. The two armies stop in front of each other, and the two majesties order their champions to fight, but the White Queen tries to convince her sister not to fight. Even so, the woman in red wants war. Everyone moves away as the Jabberwocky approaches, a giant dragon with huge wings and sharp teeth. Alice goes on and tries to list various unbelievable things in order to find the courage to defeat the creature. While the monster talks to the Vorpal sword, which is his old enemy, the girl takes advantage of the distraction and strikes a blow that cuts out a piece of the enemy's tongue. At that moment, the Jabberwocky strikes back and hits Alice, causing her to fall to the ground. Then he paws at the girl, but she manages to dodge to the side. The young woman attacks once more and receives a blast of lightning, which she defends with her shield. Alice is convinced that she can defeat the monster, so she unleashes several attacks and dodges underneath the beast. In a few seconds, the beast attacks and throws the girl away, causing her to lose her sword. The Hatter tries to distract the animal, and the Red Queen asks her soldiers to interfere too, which starts the war. Young Kingsley manages to recover her sword and flees into the rubble of the battlefield. Meanwhile, the giant bird tries to capture the mouse and the dog, but the rodent shoots a weapon into its eye. The enemies use a catapult and throw a rock at the bird, which is knocked out. Alice waits for the Jabberwocky, who appears behind her, so the girl hides behind the pillars, but is found and dealt a blow. She climbs the stairs, but the creature is already on the top floor. The young woman goes under the enemy and is trapped on a precipice. At the same time, the Mad Hatter strikes the knight in the eye, momentarily blinding him so that he can knock him out. Young Kingsley dodges the monster's blows, then manages to climb onto its neck. The Jabberwocky throws her high into the air, and the girl lands a blow with the Vorpal sword, which cuts off the enemy's head. Then the Hatter, who was about to take Knave of Hearts' life, gives up. On the other hand, the Majesty is still angry and asks one of the guards to cut off Alice's head. However, the soldiers no longer obey her, as their greatest warrior has been defeated. At that moment, everyone abandons their weapons and the crown is taken by the Cheshire Cat to the White Queen. The Queen in Red will be banished from the kingdom to a place where there is no one, and the Knave of Hearts will be held captive with her. When he discovers this, he tries to take his companion's life, but is stopped by the Hatter, who throws a knife into his hand. In return for her help, the Queen gives Alice the blood of the dragon so that she can return home. Before drinking the liquid, the young Kingsley says goodbye to the Hatter. She leaves through the same hole in the tree she fell into, and returns to the engagement ceremony completely dirty. Alice denies the marriage proposal once again and confesses that she won't let anyone decide her fate. Later, the young woman helps Lord Ascot expand his business to China, and he invites her to become an apprentice in his company. After that, the girl travels on a boat and a butterfly lands on her shoulder, which she calls Absalom. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.